Games, huh? I'm both cooking right now. Yeah, obviously that game last week we didn't start the way we wanted to. The first half was some of the poorest football we've probably played in the last 2.5 years. And fortunately, at halftime we got our act together. No, we still had a couple turnovers there in the second half, but our guys were playing harder, and certainly in the fourth quarter, we did what we needed to do to win that football game. So that was good to see. That was a different type of game. We hadn't seen that from the 2024 Detroit Lions yet. That much adversity, particularly early in a game, and to be able to overcome that was pretty promising for what could unfold down the road here.
You guys, I guess, had the new exciting primetime games and felt the energy that's come with that. Felt in some way that Houston was experiencing that and played with maybe a different level of intensity and energy coming out defensively for sure. How do you combat that, counter that as a coach when a team an opponent is so amped up like that?
Well, I feel like we typically get the opponent's best shot each and every week right now. That's something we learned in training camp. We've talked about it as a unit that, when we faced the Giants, we didn't have maybe our best 2 days in a row there. And so we learned early on that when you come in with that high expectations, there's a little bit of a target on your back, and everyone's gonna give you their best. And so that certainly happened on Sunday night, primetime game, like you said. And that's what that defense is really known for as well. It's not a complex scheme necessarily, but they bring it. They showed it on tape, said it. They were a fast, aggressive, physical unit, and they brought that to us there early in the game. There were some things schematically we were hoping to do to slow them down, and probably didn't work as well as we had hoped there. But we found our footing there at halftime, and really proud of how the guys came out at halftime and responded.
With Jameson, 3 catches for 53 yards, but could you almost argue that was one of his better games, just with the degree of difficulty in some of those catches and the key spots? And how impressed were you with him holding on to some of those and making those big plays, even though they weren't the splash touchdowns, but they were key?
Right, we absolutely needed them. I mean, the 1 third down early in the game was, Jared said he put it behind him just a little bit, and he was able to come down with that ball and extend that drive. And then in the fourth quarter there, you saw the one where I don't know if I've seen him make that catch even in practice over the last 2.5 years. So that was certainly encouraging to see. He's really coming on, showing up. When you challenge him on the sideline, he typically responds in a positive way. And we knew, particularly with the turnovers, our margin for error had gone down. And so he needed to make that play for us at that time, and he did. But the level of confidence in him and his hands and his detail continues to rise.
One of the first things Aaron said when he came up here was, that the player that impressed him was Jared Goff, and just kind of the way he bounced back from those turnovers to lead you guys at the end. What did you learn about Jared in those situations last week?
It's really been the same guy, though. I mean, I spend probably the most time with him than any other player on the roster, so gotten to know him really well. He's had his lumps over the years, and this was another one where it's just a little stumbling block, and he handled it as well as you possibly could imagine. I mean, on the sideline, we're talking through what he's seeing, and he's seeing it all great. And as much as I can, I'm trying to reassure him. It's on me as much as it's anything else, because what we saw on tape and what we said was going to happen didn't quite turn out the way we wanted. And so just telling him that I'm as responsible as he is for those interceptions, and he certainly showed up there. Like I said, in the fourth quarter, he came out and was still firing that ball. A lot of guys would clam up and be afraid to make a mistake, and he did not do that.
Out from the game, and obviously you have the perspective of winning, but what do you take away mentally from an opportunity like this, where you do have a lot of tape that you can look at offensively and see what worked, what didn't, more than you've had in previous weeks?
Yes. What's the question?
How do you mentally process that? Or is it a challenge that you look forward to that's like we have more to work on this week, or does it not feel different than any other week where maybe the offense was more humming?
Yeah, no, I think it's business as usual. We've got a process that we trust and we feel good about how we approach each and every week. In general, I would say not just that game, the last 3 weeks, there are things that we haven't been consistent enough with. Going back to the Tennessee game, I mean, I know we scored 50-something points, but that was more gifted to us, I feel like, more than us pulling our own weight. Same thing with Green Bay. We played half a game really well, and we didn't finish the second half the way we're capable of. And then certainly last week, we didn't start the game like we wanted to. So we're still fighting to play 60 minutes of consistent football like we're capable of. And we've shown flashes that we can be a dominant unit when we're all executing at a high level and we believe in what we're doing. But we just need to put it together again. That's all.
When your defense is making those plays, can you feel the energy tick back up? Is that something that you're?
There's no question. I mean, it's year 13. I say this all the time. Year 13, best defense I've ever been around. I mean, it is a comforting thought knowing that we're putting them in some tough spots at times, and they're just powering through. They don't blink an eye. Turnover, poor field position, 3 and out by us. They go out there and they just get us the ball right back right away. And so it's a very comforting thought. And the challenge for us as an offense right now is to pull our weight because we feel like those 2 other units are doing it on their side of the ball right now.
It seems like the players on this team on both sides of the football are really close no matter what position they play. Do you think that has something to it, the fact that it seems like every game there's one unit that has the other one's back and, just playing that complementary football?
Yeah, I mean, that's what good teams do. And that's shown up so far this year is when one unit is not playing up to snuff, then the other ones pull them on along. So that's why we're 8-1 right now, to be quite frank with you. And that's a good thing. That's what teams that win in the tournament do.
Ben, you're always so complimentary of AG and just there said best defense you've played with as a coach. He was asked today, how's he a better DC than when he got here, and he talked about just how much he's learned about offensive football, talking to coordinators, presumably you but others around the country. And I'm just curious, you guys have been together this whole time. How does that relationship work with talking to each other and learning, I guess, the alternative perspective in shaping your schematic understanding, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like every year in springtime and camp, they've shifted philosophies a little bit over the last 3 years, and a natural evolution of who he has on their side of the ball. You could kind of tell early on in camp that they were going to be really potent this year. And schematically, I think it's probably less in general first and second down, and even third down. It's more the minutiae of situational football that you learn more from each other than anything else. We sit in these game management meetings with Coach Campbell almost every week and see things from around the league that are going on, and we can kind of spitball back and go, hey, what would we do if we were in this 2-minute drill with this situation? AG, what would you be thinking with your call? Ben, what would you be thinking with your call? So there's a lot of banter back and forth, and I think that's really how you grow as a coach, is get put in those types of spots that if you're not challenging yourself and asking yourself those tough questions, you wouldn't normally get to.
What was your assessment of how Skipper did filling in for Taylor Decker?
Up and down at times, but he fought his butt off, just like we knew he would. There were a couple times he got edged, but and in the run game maybe didn't get his responsibility, but overall was not unpleased with how he played. Up front, it was kind of shifted around to whether it's the pass protection or the run game, what little piece was off. Panay didn't play his best half there in the first half. A couple times in pass pro. I know Graham got on one of the third downs. So it was kind of all over the place there. And then they came together and played well there in the second half.
When you mentioned just challenging JMO on the sidelines, what does that look like? What does that sound like? And was that like a personal challenge that you issued him on Sunday?
Well, the one that I think it was the last interception we threw up, he came to me, he's like, hey, was my angle right? And I was like, no, it wasn't right. It's not what we had talked about. But the ball's going to come to you in the fourth quarter here, and we need you to make a play. And, he responded to that call just like that. So there's I think that happens within practice, that happens in the meeting room, and it certainly happened on game day last week for us.
On Jacksonville, you know, their season-long defensive stats aren't that impressive, but they're coming off a pretty strong performance last week. Just kind of curious what you saw on tape that if they did anything different or if they're just kind of starting to click.
Yeah, I think you're seeing the coverage start to tighten up. This is an aggressive press defense, whether they're in single high or two high. They like to get up in your grill and challenge. They had some coverage breakdowns early in the year. You probably saw it in the Miami game. Miami got half their yardage off of 2 plays. And so they've given up some explosives. They limited that to a larger degree last week, and they played good red zone defense and held them to field goals. So talented unit. Got a lot of respect for their defensive coordinator. Good scheme, coaches them hard, and they have talent at all 3 levels, all across the board. So you got to take the rankings with a little bit of a grain of salt, because if you fall asleep on a team like this, they'll come out and embarrass you in a hurry.
Played some really good football for a long time. He seems to be in a stretch here where he's playing exceptional. I don't know, as good as ever. Is there a health-wise, is that, or is there something else that maybe is contributing to him just being, on top of his game?
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably feels good. I don't know. You'd have to ask him that one. Probably as good as you could feel mid-season right now, but he's mastered everything we've thrown at him mentally in terms of identification. He is the quarterback of the offensive line, of the blocking unit for sure, and I think there's a comfort level to go with that. And I agree with you. He's playing some of his best ball of his career right now. Won the game ball last week as a result of that. Thank you.